Yes, I know I just released all 7 parts on YouTube. Part two's audio broke because I edited to censor something. Just to censor something. So the audio for part two broke, and I don't have the script anymore to remake that episode. Plus, these episodes are just made off the top of my head. So this is Blaze with his calamity powers. This is his base form. This is Kratos with his calamity powers. All he really gains is armor with a big ass sword with blue aura. And this is Deku with his costume. Just a red skull with a black X. The rest is the same color. The whole mask is red and that black. And this is Deku with his calamity transformation, just with a Boruto like karma seal that's red and red energy with black lightning and a black aura surrounding his body, outline of his body, like a bigger black aura, double skulls in his eyes, red hair. Now we see Deku in his suit take off his mask, putting it on the shelf before sitting down. He's finally getting back to Japan after 2 days of travel. Deku would put his suit in its case, not his hacker suit, as he would call his Calamity brothers. Boys, we have to go with Master Black. We need to train. So I'm calling a major team meeting. Team meeting! Kratos would say, gathering everybody up as they would sit in their meeting. Oh, what is it, Deck? Don't call me Deck, first of all. As Deku got his hacker costume, everyone else as well. As they would tell, so, not really, they would, Kratos, Johnny, and him would all be in their suits. So me and Kratos and Johnny are going away for a while to train. So, Kirishima, I'm leaving you in charge. Alright. Nearly 1 year. So we'll be gone for days, for months. Flying away, all of them as their clothes skin, their suits would burn off, teleporting back into their suits. Their cases, they would put all their hacker outfits back on, or teleporting back back to black, to Deku's old house. So we're here. Good. We will be training for 10 months, for 6 whole. We will be training for a while. In 1 whole motherfucking year, a great power. Something hundreds of trillions of times stronger than All Might. You might even consider him a god. Is he on the level of that Hercules person? You fought Hercules. Yes, he ripped me in half. Oh dear. Shoot, Buddha. Who? Nothing. You should know who Buddha is. He's your damn god. He's not the Japanese god. He's the Chinese god. You know what I mean? Buddha was the god for Japan in the ancient age. How old are you, master? That is just private information. You never asked a man how old. Sure, whatever. First, teaching you how to control your calamity forms. as those are going to be big parts in the fight. Against our two enemies. You know what? Bet! Deku would say. Pack up, because we're leaving. I've already got everything stored in my little pocket dimension. We're teleporting all away, using a giant beam of light in the air. They would all be flying through the air. Kratos on the back of Johnny's motorcycle. Block would give him the shoes of Hermes, a clone of the boots of Hermes, giving him the power of flight. They would arrive in a temple, an esque sort of temple. Welcome to the Temple of Calamity. This was built centuries ago by the gods for people like you. Totally not just some random temple that I found that I thought looked cool and turned into this. Here's how you will be training. First, we will be working on your sword, your weapon skills, physical education, all that stuff. Blah, 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 boring stuff, basically boring stuff. We're attacking Kratos, knocking him to the ground, teleporting behind Jock Blaze, punching him in the head. Blaze would power up. Deku would power up as well. His hair flowing a little, similar to that of Calamity and from Fibria, and Fibria. With his right lightning. Basically 30 pack. No, not yet. His eyes would glow red. He would shoot out 2 slashes at his master, turning his hands to the blade, flying at him, going hand to hand, or sword to sword with him. His master punching him right in the chest, leaving a literal gigantic imprint, blasting his entire upper body off, lower jaw included, as his whole body would just creepily regenerate. He would send out multiple blasts into the shape of thunderbolts at his master easily reflecting them. For Kratos would come at him, summoning his sword, covering in his calamity energy, bringing it down on his master, covering his arm in his armor, as he would grow demon-like horns, the ones on his shoulder blades. As he would grow one goat ram-like horn, slamming down on his master. His blade covered in blue ethereal light, as his master would be holding it on one knee, holding it up with his one arm, grabbing it and ripping a chunk out of it, stabbing Kratos in the lower jaw. As Kratos would fall back, everyone would say, "He's not dead." As his sword, the face on his sword would begin to glow, and the sword would begin to glow violently. As it would go to his arm, as the face on it and the body would be glowing with energy. As he would pick up, his face paling, the mark appearing. His full armor as he summoned his calamity armor, giving his calamity Kratos, slaps, throwing his sword at his master, making him disappear, switching puts with it, smacking Black across the face. How the hell? But his armor was instantly shattered. I think I got a way for us to control our powers, guys. My sword is just a fundamental creation of my weapons, my energy. So it's like a conduit for my power. So I'm circulating my power into the blade, therefore spreading it out through my body, making it easier to control. As far as I'm able to summon my arm just by a little bit. What's your blade's name even? The Olympian Slayer. The God. The Chaos Sword. Putting it in the air triumphantly as he would cover it with his blue energy again. Summoning his armor in his one form. So all we gotta do is just output our energy to some source of power. Basically, charging at his master, teleporting as he would summon his skeletorial form with the giant katana clashing with Kratos. Bet, Johnny would say, going into transforming. But he can't transform fully, as he has not that. Both of his eyes would begin to glow a fiery purple. Then his hands would begin to burn, with fire emanating off of them. A chain would surround his arm. As he would summon his calamity form close, but not the full power. As the marks on his head would begin to glow purple, both of his eyes would become fire, as they would begin to burn with the fire emanating off of them, looking so badass. Bitch, he would say. Teleporting as master, joining Kratos, Deku would say. Assholes. For charging up, going into his premature calamity form. As he would close his eyes and say, "Let's go!" Charging up using about 10% of his calamity power. Calamity output 10 times 10! Before getting a blast, he gets set by Adam as he would close his eyes and dodge out of the way like an ultra instinct fashion, instantly teleporting in front of his master, punching him to the ceiling. His master summoning a black hole-like object, crushing him to the ground. It's a white hole. White holes don't suck things in like black holes do. White holes reflect things away, so they push things away with the gravitational force of a black hole, just in the opposite direction. As Deku would summon the mark of calamity, of his hacker mark on his body, covering his face all the way up to his arm, then all the way up to his eye. As he would take an advice to what Kratos said, summoning both of his katanas, transferring a lot of energy into them, turning them one red and one black. The black blood moon swords, spinning them, slashing at his master. As his energy would form that of a skull. Johnny would say, "Copycat!" Or pulling back one of his arms, summoning a chain, wrapping it around his knuckles, punching Black. Kratos would hold Black down. Help with Johnny. Deku would run at him, charging out the Calamity Punch, punching Black, setting him blind to the wall. I'm impressed. Y'all should be thanking Kratos for finding that out. Thanks, Kratos. Without you, I don't even think I could have achieved something like this. Before getting both of his katanas snatched from him. All of their weapons would get snatched. Johnny saying, I'm not outputting my energy into something. In fact, I'm focusing all my energy into my fist. As he would summon his shotgun, but now I can infuse it into this. Boom! Setting off a shotgun, a shell to the equivalent of a rock of 5 missiles from a tank. As Black would sit there using telepathy, crushing the missiles midair. Before freezing time. But then he would notice Deku's gone before looking up to see Deku in midair. Flying down at him. He would realize, Deku, if he's able to move, my time is stopped. That means, before seeing a horn on Deku's face, his other eye closed and a metallic like bone wing, and a claw and a tail, where he would charge down, slamming right next to his master, smacking him away with his tail, shattering the time distortion, before instantly turning normal. Deku would summon Calamity Ball before throwing a ball at his master grabbing it midair, absorbing it into his arm, throwing it right back at him. Deku would do the same with his mark. Oh, I can absorb that stuff? Hell yeah! For Kratos would appear behind Deku, throwing him out of the way. Well, not behind Deku, behind Black, slashing him. Deku would take a head-on thunderbolt from his master. A head-on sword from his master's Skeletor-like form, as his body would sit there hanging in the middle, before sliding to the floor with a loud thud. I think he actually killed Deku. Deku would put his hand on the sword before shattering it, crushing his hands together. Before summoning, a black orb would appear. He said, I can't believe I actually did it. For the rest of the sword would get absorbed, as reality itself would be like it's being warped around the beam thing. As this object would float behind to Deku, to the back of Deku like a truth-seeking orb, as Deku would say, they're my calamity orbs. This is how I'm going to conduit my energy and process it. I see what you're doing, because you can't put them in your katanas. Just your katanas. So you're outputting energy into the calamity orbs, balancing it out, and I'm gonna make 10 of the things, making 9 more orbs. Before grabbing one, turning into a calamity rod, before making the black rod longer, hitting his master, doing an Otsutsuki like thing, smacking him with the black baton, going hand to hand. Before making something that of Yukito would made during the 4th grade Ninja War when Susa Armored Kurama slashed him with his katana, slashing with his master, sending blasting calamity rods at him through the orbs. I definitely scattered them around the room, them splitting into even smaller particles. As Deku's hands would become somewhat bony, becoming sharper, for bulking up again, punching his master into the fucking ground. Kratos would sit there about to bring down Imperial wrath on his master. Johnny would say, "Alright then, Spirit of Vengeance, I order you to give me your power!" Or summoning a purple Nova, slamming it down on both of them. Izuku still beating down on his master. Deku would sit there with a barrier around him before teleporting right next to Johnny. Johnny realizing that Deku can teleport wherever the black orbs go, because of the fact that his energy is being flown and shared directly to them. Deku just keeps changing up his teleportation style. Like, he can open portals, he can teleport between his calamity orbs, he can fucking glitch himself to instantly teleport, which he can't really do because when that happened, he went berserk, so he couldn't really necessarily control it. So, yeah. It's been a while since I used this one, turning his arm into a railgun, blasting before it would get launched right back at him, destroying the gun. That's never happened before. The railgun's like one of my strongest attacks. Before Deku's arm would go limp, falling. Deku would fall on his knees saying, "Ah! It hurts!" Deku? "Are you okay?" Kratos would say before his sword would get split in half. As a spear-like thing would get shot right through his chest, impaling him, sending him flying to the wall, splitting it around. Here, this is where he splits it. Ignore all of that. I'm not a very good artist. Yay! Deku's arm would be fucking aching. He would fall to the ground. Kratos would be sitting on the wall, bloodied, battered, beaten. Well, Johnny would be sitting there, fucking con. It's like, what the fuck? 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 Do I do? Remembering that the Ghost Rider was angels, so she could be able to heal them before he would run over to grab to heal Deku. He would get both of his hands blasted off, ripped off to be precise. He would fall to the ground wailing and say, "Ah!" As his arm would blood would gush out of his arm, as Black would say, for him fingers. Been a while. I mean a while since I got to fucking come out and play a game. Black's coming out of there. Johnny would realize he's not regenerating. And by the way, the first 2 people to comment on my videos, y'all niggas gonna get a shout out. For Black would say, oh, by the way, kids, I'm not joking when I said I'm putting you. But Johnny would get pulled against the pillar, slammed against it. Deku's arm would still be in pain. Gyarados would try his best to pull the spear out of his chest, but his nerves would have been shut off as he would have been ragdolled against the wall. For Johnny, as a last-ditch attempt, would pull out his shotgun, wrapping his chain, and blasting at Black. For all 3 of the boys would pass out. Kratos would fall against the wall of the ground. Johnny would fall as well. It should be happening in 3, 2, 1. Before beams of energy would get off of them. For hearing from all 3 of the boys. Deku would sit there as he would see 2 metallic bone-like spiky wings with the thick resembles that of angels but are more metallic and bony and look sharp. Really sharp. As his eyes would glare red with double skulls, a skull appearing on his head with a spider emblem. As a tail would sprout from his hand to become claws, morphing. Kratos would sit there. He would have been, as Johnny would go berserk, transforming fully into his rider form. But this time, he would have so much of a crown made out of fire above his skull and horns protruding from it. Kratos would have ram horns growing out of his head. growing bigger as he would summon his blade, which had become a blood red hint, a blood red hint, a hint of blood. As his eyes would have become completely black with a red pupil. Before growing a second pair of tiny horns above, in the middle of his ram-like horns. Deku would become more metallic. Back and forth, all three of them would rush at Black. Black stopping time, beating and punching all of them, but they would still be able to move. Kratos would summon, Berserk Kratos would summon his sword, slashing at his master, cutting existence itself. Berserk Calamity Black Deku would summon a black hole, blasting them at his master, using the true seeking orbs, the Calamity orbs in a more evil way to manipulate his skin itself in the symbiotic-like fashion. Kratos would get in a ramming fashion before slamming right into one of the pillars, nudging it right out of place. Johnny would sit there summoning his bike before doing a backflip off, letting it slam right into his master. It would explode. As he would summon a chain, as he would do a superhero line, he would whipping his arm back and whipping it forward again, as the chain would stiffen from the whiplash, wrapping around Black. As Berserk Deku would sit there and summon a black Calamity Blast, but not from the hand, not from a black arm. He would summon a dragon figure, or a dragon-like a humanoid dragon Susanoo-like figure, for getting on all fours and growing in its neck elongating, turning into a dragon, blasting him with a black Calamity Blast. Kratos. Oh. What do y'all like? Give that back. Need it. Fine and stay trapped in there for the rest of eternity. I don't care. Can I get a rip in the chat for my sweet eraser? Kratos would finally pull himself together, summoning his blade again, going to slash on Black before the blade would stab him instead. Just as when it entered his flesh, a portal would open right as it entered. It would go through it, stabbing Johnny through his back, before his spine, before then stabbing Izuku through the head, through the leg. But the sword would disappear. Kratos would sit there frozen. Izuku would flop to the ground with a thud. They actually managed to make me sweat, wiping a bead of sweat off his head. They go berserk while fighting the destroyer. We're gonna have our ass handed to us, and I'm not even allowed to intervene. Deku would wake up with a scar in the middle of in his chest, with a scar on his arm. So let's this as we would tune in to see a man sitting at his desk, sitting at a throne, with another figure wearing a cloak right next to him. So he says, "Now then, how close are we to Earth?" He would say. The man next to him would say, the figure next to him would say, "We are approximately 1 year away from Earth. Remember, we'll be there in a year, sir. You must train and be patient, my lord." Fine, said Batman. And that is where I'll be leaving off. What is ridiculous? Part 8. You know I'm getting to part 10.